Jae-Sung Kim adjusted his platinum cufflinks bearing his family crest as he guided his midnight black Maybach through the elegant streets of Manhattan's Upper East Side. The late afternoon light cast amber streaks across the leather interior, illuminating the woman beside him, Ji-hyun Park, 32, dark hair perfectly styled in a sophisticated updo, designer dress that whispered expensive taste rather than screamed it. She was everything he thought he wanted now, beautiful, intelligent, uncomplicated. "The Vanderbilt wedding is supposed to be the social event of the season," Ji-hyun said, checking her reflection in the visor mirror. "I still can't believe you got us an invitation on such short notice." Jae-Sung smiled, his dark eyes, intense and unreadable, focused on the road ahead. At 38, he had learned that power could buy almost anything, including access to the circles where questions weren't asked. His sharp jawline, distinctive Korean features, and impeccably tailored black suit caught the afternoon light as he turned toward her. "Perks of having the right connections in real estate development." Ji-hyun laughed, the sound light and trusting. "You make it sound so simple." Simple. That's exactly what Jae-Sung had wanted his life to become. 6 months of dating without probing questions. No inquiries about the late-night phone calls he took in another room, the men who appeared at his office calling him Hyung-nim, older brother, a term of respect that meant so much more in his world. No curiosity about why certain people went silent when he entered a restaurant, or why valets always had his car ready before he reached the door. His carefully compartmentalized life was exactly as he'd designed it. Legitimate businessman by day, untouchable by night. The Gothic spires of St. Patrick's Cathedral rose ahead, gray stone reaching toward the overcast New York sky. Another society wedding. Another opportunity to be seen in the right circles, cementing his cover as a successful real estate mogul while his actual empire, smuggling routes through the ports, protection networks across 5 boroughs, information that made powerful people nervous, operated invisibly beneath the surface. Jae-Sung pulled to the curb, already preparing his public face. The smile that didn't reach his eyes, the firm handshakes, the careful conversations that revealed nothing. Then he saw her walking up the cathedral steps. Angela, his ex-wife. The woman he'd divorced exactly 5 years and 3 months ago in proceedings so bitter his lawyers had needed security escorts. The only person who'd ever made him question whether the isolation of power was worth the price. She wore a striking red dress, the color bold and unapologetic against her dark skin. Her natural hair was styled in elegant curls, and she moved with the same confident grace he remembered, even now, even after everything. But it wasn't Angela who made Jae-Sung's breath catch in his throat. It was the 2 boys holding her hands, identical twins in matching gray vests and bow ties, perhaps 5 years old. Their small faces turned as they climbed the steps, and Jae-Sung felt the world tilt sideways. Sharp jawlines, his jawline, intense dark eyes, his eyes. The distinctive shape of his family's features, unmistakable, undeniable, staring back at him from children who shouldn't exist. "Jae-Sung?" Ji-hyun's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." One of the twins, the one on Angela's right, turned his head and looked directly at the Maybach, directly at Jae-Sung. For one impossible moment, their eyes locked. A flicker of something passed across the child's face. Recognition? Curiosity? The boy smiled, small and tentative, before Angela quickly ushered both children inside the cathedral doors. Jae-Sung sat frozen behind the wheel, his carefully controlled world fracturing with each heartbeat. 5 years and 3 months ago, Angela had walked away from their marriage. 5 years and 9 months ago would have been... No. "Jae-Sung?" Ji-hyun touched his arm, concern creasing her perfect features. "What's wrong?" "Everything. Nothing. The entire architecture of lies he'd built his life upon." One devastating question burned through his mind, drowning out the traffic sounds, the cathedral bells, Ji-hyun's worried voice. In a life built on secrets and survival, on knowing everyone else's vulnerabilities while hiding his own, how had he missed the most important secret of all? Those boys had his face, his eyes, his blood, and Angela had kept them hidden for 5 years. "Hey besties, I'm glad you're here. Before we begin, drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. When the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10 and share what you felt along the way. And if you enjoy stories about power, family secrets, and the choices we make in the shadows, make sure to subscribe, like, and share with family and friends. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next one." Here's something most people don't understand about organized crime. The most successful operations don't look like crime at all. They look like boardrooms and charity galas and real estate portfolios. The violence happens in shadows, but the power, that's maintained in plain sight, wearing expensive suits and shaking hands with city officials. Jae-Sung had perfected this duality over 15 years. By day, he was the face of Kim Development Group, luxury condos in Tribeca, commercial properties in Midtown, his name on non-profit boards. By night, he controlled shipping routes through Red Hook, protection networks that stretched from Flushing to Fort Lee, and information that made senators nervous. 2 worlds, 1 man, never touching. Ji-hyun fit perfectly into the daylight version of his life. She asked about his work in the polite, surface-level way people ask about the weather. She never questioned why his phone buzzed at 2 a.m. or why certain men bowed slightly when they passed. 6 months of dating, and she'd never once asked what Hyungnim meant. It was exactly what he wanted, what his uncle had taught him to want. Kim Tae-hyun had raised Jae-Sung after his father's death, molding him into the organization's future. His uncle's philosophy was gospel. Love is a knife that enemies use to cut you. Never give them the handle. Angela had been the knife Jae-Sung foolishly handed over. They'd met at Columbia, her studying social work, him pretending he was just another business student. The passion had been immediate, blinding. For 3 years, he'd believed he could keep her separate from his real life. But Angela was too smart, too observant. She'd started noticing things. The men who appeared when he made phone calls. The way restaurants went quiet when he entered. The cash that appeared in amounts his supposed consulting work couldn't explain. When she'd confronted him, he'd told her the truth. Stupidest decision of his life. The marriage lasted another year. A year of her trying to convince him to leave, him explaining why he couldn't, and his uncle making it clear that Angela's knowledge made her a liability. The threats came obliquely at first, then directly. When Jae-Sung filed for divorce, he told himself it was protection, that cutting her loose saved her life. He'd spent 5 years believing that lie, until he saw those 2 boys on the cathedral steps, and his perfectly constructed world shattered like glass. Jae-Sung stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse at 3 a.m., watching the city lights blur into streaks below. The space around him screamed wealth, Italian marble, custom furniture, original artwork, but felt as empty as a mausoleum. He'd sent Ji-hyun home with some excuse about work calls, watching her leave without protest, without curiosity. The perfect girlfriend for a man who wanted to be left alone. Except now, alone felt suffocating. He'd made the call before dawn. Min-soo was the organization's best investigator, former intelligence officer, meticulous, discreet. "I need everything on Angela Martinez. Maiden name. Focus on the last 6 years. Children. Everything." The 48-hour wait was torture. Jae-Sung moved through meetings like a ghost, authorizing shipments and territory agreements while his mind replayed fragments. Angela's laugh, the way she'd touch his face when he came home tense, her voice when she'd begged him to leave the organization. This life will kill you, Jae. If not your enemies, then your soul. Had she been pregnant when she signed the divorce papers? Had she known? Ji-hyun noticed his distraction over dinner Monday night. You've been somewhere else since the wedding, she said, studying him with mild concern. Not demanding answers, not pushing, just observing. Work complications, he muttered. She nodded, accepting the non-answer with the same graceful distance she always maintained. Once, he'd found that refreshing. Now it felt like proof they were playing house, not building anything real. Min-soo's report arrived Tuesday afternoon, a thick folder that felt like holding a bomb. Angela Martinez, living in Brooklyn under her maiden name, raising twin boys, Min-jun and Tae-yang Kim Martinez. Born 5 years ago. Korean names, deliberately chosen, proudly claimed. No father listed on birth certificates. No child support trail. No legal acknowledgement of paternity. The photographs punched the air from his lungs. Angela at a victim advocacy organization, of course, still saving people. A modest brownstone in Park Slope, warm and lived in. The boys at Korean cultural events, learning taekwondo, practicing hangul. Then the school records, emergency contacts, Angela's sister, Angela's mother, a family lawyer, conspicuously, deliberately, no father. She hadn't just kept him out accidentally. She'd built a wall, brick by brick, erasing him from their lives while teaching his sons their heritage. The question wasn't whether they were his. The question was why she'd made sure he'd never know. In criminal organizations, surveillance isn't paranoia, it's survival. You watch your enemies, you watch your allies, you watch the people you love because love makes them targets. Privacy becomes tactical, a luxury you can't afford. It's a world where showing up uninvited isn't romantic. It's a threat assessment. Jae-Sung sat in his car across from Angela's brownstone Thursday night, hating himself for being there. He'd told himself he'd just look, just confirm they were real, but hours passed, and he couldn't leave. At 11 p.m., the front door opened. Angela emerged in sweatpants and a worn Columbia hoodie. His hoodie, he realized with a jolt, carrying recycling bags. She moved down the steps, breath fogging in the October air. Then she froze. Her eyes found him standing under the streetlight, and the fear that flooded her face wasn't about him. It was about what his presence meant, what it would cost. I saw you at the wedding, Jae-Sung said, his voice rough. I saw them. Angela's hands tightened on the recycling bags. You weren't supposed to. I was careful for 5 years. Not careful enough. I had someone. You put surveillance on my children? Her voice cracked like a whip, fury barely controlled. On my children? They're our children, Angela. You kept that from me. I kept them safe. She dropped the bags, stepping closer, eyes blazing. I divorced you to protect them from exactly this, from men following them, from your enemies using them, from you making them targets just by caring. The words hit like physical blows. You can see them once, she said, voice shaking. Supervised. Then you decide if you're willing to risk their safety for your need to be involved. She moved closer, and he saw the steel beneath her fear. If you're doing this to ease your conscience, stay away. They don't need a guilty father showing up when it's convenient. They need safety. That's what I've given them. Her final question hung in the cold air. Can you? Saturday afternoon, Jae-Sung stood on Angela's stoop feeling more nervous than he'd ever been facing rival bosses. The brownstone was everything his penthouse wasn't. Crayon drawings taped to walls, family photographs everywhere, worn furniture that invited you to sit. A home, not a showpiece. "Boys, come meet Mr. Kim," Angela called, her voice carefully neutral. "He's old friend." They appeared from the kitchen, Min-jun and Tae-yang. 5 years old and unmistakably his. Min-jun had his eyes, intense, analytical, assessing. He tilted his head exactly the way Jae-Sung did when skeptical, studying this stranger with careful wariness. Tae-yang was bolder, grinning wide, crossing his arms the same way Jae-Sung crossed his when thinking. Their faces were mirrors of his childhood photographs. "Are you Korean?" Tae-yang asked immediately. "Mom says we're half Korean, but our dad had to work far away. Are you working far away too, Mr. Kim?" The question nearly broke him. "I work in the city," Jae-Sung managed. "You're Mr. Kim," Angela interrupted firmly, meeting Jae-Sung's eyes with warning. "A friend of the family. Nothing more until we decide what this is." Tae-yang warmed up instantly, dragging Jae-Sung to see his drawings, asking 1,000 questions. Min-jun hung back, watching, evaluating with an intelligence that felt unsettling in someone so young. "Do you know any Korean games?" Min-jun asked finally, testing. "Hwatu," Jae-Sung said. "My grandfather taught me." He pulled out the flower cards he'd brought, hoping, planning, showed them the rules, the strategy. Tae-yang played with delighted chaos, laughing at every turn. But Min-jun studied the game like a chess match, and when he won his first round, his rare smile was pure sunshine. "Will you come back?" Tae-yang asked when Jae-Sung stood to leave, small hand catching his sleeve. And Jae-Sung knew there was no walking away. Not now, not ever. At the door, Angela's voice was quiet steel. "They're already asking questions. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Whatever you decide, decide fast. I won't let you break their hearts with inconsistency." Code switching isn't just about language. It's about inhabiting entirely different selves. Immigrants master this art of transformation, slipping between identities as naturally as breathing. For Jae-Sung, it became a daily performance of contradictions. Evening visits to Angela's brownstone became ritual. He sat cross-legged on the living room floor, building Lego towers with Tae-yang, while Min-jun explained fractions with the patience of a tiny professor. Dinner was a disaster. His attempt at japchae resulted in a smoky kitchen and the twins' delighted laughter. Bedtime stories in Korean felt like recovering a forgotten language, his voice softening into rhythms his own father never used. But at midnight, he sat in restaurants across from men who called him Hyungnim, discussing shipment routes and territorial disputes with the same hands that had just tied bow ties and checked homework. "You're distracted," Young Jin said, lighting a cigarette. "People notice. In our business, distraction is fatal." Jae-Sung's phone buzzed during story time, again during dinner. He excused himself with practiced lies while Angela's eyes tracked him with barely concealed judgment. "You've changed," Ji-hyun observed over wine at his penthouse. "You check your phone differently now. You smile at random times. Who is she?" It's complicated. The collision was inevitable. Angela's advocacy organization was relocating a woman whose husband worked protection rackets, Jae-Sung's protection rackets. Safe houses she established operated in neighborhoods his family controlled. Women she rescued were trafficked through ports bearing his family's invisible signature. Could he be a father to his children while running an organization that created the very problems Angela dedicated her life to solving? Across the city, Park Dong-woo studied surveillance photographs with interest. "Kim Jae-Sung has been seen in Brooklyn, repeatedly, family neighborhood." He smiled. "Interesting." The envelope arrived during a morning meeting. No return address. Inside, 8 photographs. Min-jun and Tae-yang at their school gate, at the playground, walking home with Angela. Telephoto precision. Professional surveillance. The handwritten note was brief. Beautiful children. It would be unfortunate if anything happened to them. Park Dong-woo's signature flourish at the bottom. Jae-Sung's mind worked through cold calculations. 3 options: deny the children existed and preserve his untouchable reputation, negotiate from weakness and surrender territory, or acknowledge them publicly and gamble that his reputation was fierce enough to make them untouchable by extension. He called his uncle. Kim Tae-hyun arrived within the hour, unsurprised by the photographs. "I've known about them for 5 years," the old man said, pouring soju. "I've had men watching them since they were born. Do you think I'd let your heirs exist without protection?" "You've been surveilling my children?" This is how our world works. Family is power, but family is also vulnerability. You control the vulnerability. You control the power. His uncle leaned forward. "Use them. Let Park think they're leverage, then destroy him when he makes his move. The children never need to know they were bait." "They're not pawns." "Then you've already lost. A man who won't weaponize what he loves has no place in this business." That evening, FBI agents arrived at Angela's door asking questions about security threats to her family. They showed her Park's photographs. The lead agent, a composed woman named Ji-hyun, maintained professional distance, but her eyes held something Angela couldn't name. Angela called Jae-Sung immediately, her voice shaking with fury. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. Your world followed you here. My children are in danger because you couldn't stay away." The restaurant basement in Flushing smelled of cigarettes and aged whiskey. 5 family heads sat around a single table, their lieutenants lining the walls like sentries. Criminal diplomacy conducted in hushed Korean and calculated silences. Park Dong-woo broke protocol, standing before formal introductions concluded. "Kim Jae-Sung has acquired a weakness. 2 weaknesses to be precise. Perhaps it's time to discuss redistribution of territories." He spread photographs across the table. Minjun and Tae-yang at school, playing at the park, sleeping in their beds, taken through windows with telephoto lenses that violated every unspoken boundary. "The Brooklyn ports and the Queens distribution routes," Park continued. "Or I arrange for those children to meet unfortunate accidents. Tragic. But these things happen." Every eye turned to Jae-Sung. The room held its breath, waiting to see if fatherhood had made him vulnerable. Jae-Sung stood slowly, the scrape of his chair deliberate. He picked up one photograph, Tae-yang mid-laugh, unaware of the predator's lens. "Minjun and Tae-yang are my sons, my heirs." His voice carried absolute certainty. "Any hand that touches them will be removed. Any family that threatens them will cease to exist. Not because they are my weakness, but because protecting them is what makes me more dangerous than you've ever seen me." Park laughed, the sound nervous and dismissive. "Empty threats from a man who... You have until sunrise tomorrow to leave New York." Jae-Sung's tone dropped to Arctic precision. "After that, I stop being reasonable. I already have men positioned at their school." The other family heads exchanged glances. Some calculation had shifted. Park had assumed vulnerability, but a man with nothing to lose was predictable. A man with everything to protect was something else entirely. They were witnessing either the end of Kim Jae-Sung's empire or its most dangerous evolution. Park's men arrived at the school at 8:47 a.m. They never made it past the perimeter. Within 48 hours, Park Dong-woo's empire collapsed. Not through the expected violence, no bodies, no headlines, no gang war. Instead, systematic obliteration. Offshore accounts frozen by suddenly motivated federal investigators. Shipments intercepted at ports by law enforcement acting on anonymous tips. Key lieutenants receiving better offers from rival organizations, flipping allegiances with mercenary efficiency. Park himself simply vanished. Not killed. That would start a war. But thoroughly erased from the criminal landscape, his name becoming a cautionary tale whispered in Flushing basements. The message was clear. Jae-Sung, with something to protect, was more calculating, more ruthless, more dangerous than Jae-Sung with nothing to lose. But victory tasted like ash when FBI agents returned to Angela's door. Ji-hyun stood on the brownstone steps, no longer maintaining her cover. "I'm FBI. I've been building a case against Jae-Sung for 8 months." She met Angela's horrified stare. "But I'm recusing myself. I'm supposed to be one of the good guys, but using your children to destroy you? That's not justice. That's just different cruelty. I'm out." Angela found Jae-Sung outside the twins' school that evening, leaning against his Maybach. "You just proved every fear I had." Her voice shook. "You can't be in their lives without bringing violence. A rival gang targeted them. You destroyed an entire organization. Federal agents are involved. This is the life you're offering them?" "No. This is the life I'm protecting them from." His composure cracked. "Do you think pretending I don't exist makes them safe? Park found them because you're predictable. Same school, same routine, same neighborhood. He found them because you're unprotected." The impossible question hung between them. Is safety through ignorance better than protection through presence? Min-jun approached Angela in the kitchen with a folder of printed articles and photographs, her own wedding pictures, newspaper clippings about real estate developer Kim Jae-Sung, images clearly researched over months. "Why did you lie?" His 5-year-old voice carried unexpected steel. "We know Mr. Kim is our dad. Tae-yang found the pictures you keep in the box in your closet." Angela's protective architecture crumbled. Her children were smarter than her lies. That evening, all 4 sat in the living room. Jae-Sung chose honesty over comfort. "I run a business that operates outside the law. I make decisions that hurt people. Your mother left because she wanted you to grow up without that weight." Min-jun's question cut straight through. "Are you a bad man?" Jae-Sung met his son's eyes, his own eyes, staring back with unsettling clarity. "I've done bad things. I do bad things. But I'm trying to be a good father." Sometimes people aren't all good or all bad. They're both, and they have to live with that. Tae-yang shrugged with characteristic pragmatism. "Okay, but you have to teach us Taekwondo. Mom won't let us learn, but Dad should." The uncle's call came at midnight. "I raised you, I made you, and I kept tabs on your heirs to ensure you stayed loyal. Family is leverage. That's how power works." Jae-Sung had anticipated this. He'd spent weeks gathering evidence, offshore accounts, side deals, violations of organizational protocol. Not enough for violence, perfect for politics. "You're retiring," Jae-Sung said quietly. "Effective immediately. You taught me that family is leverage. You were right." He paused. "I'm just better at it than you were." The line went dead. The man who'd raised him was now just another calculated removal. For his son's safety, Jae-Sung had finally become the thing his uncle always wanted, ruthlessly pragmatic about family. Moral complexity resists tidy resolution. Real life doesn't offer clean endings, only honest ones. 3 years can reshape everything. Saturday morning in the new brownstone, Min-jun, now 8, read newspaper articles about legitimate business acquisitions with the analytical precision he'd inherited from both parents. Tae-yang practiced Korean calligraphy at the kitchen table, tongue between teeth in concentration. Angela and Jae-Sung occupied separate floors, connected by shared spaces and shared purpose. Not romantic reunion, something more sustainable. Genuine co-parenting built on brutal honesty. Jae-Sung had transitioned mostly legitimate, though control remained through strategic investments and carefully maintained reputation. Angela's advocacy organization had expanded, occasionally intersecting with his network to relocate at-risk families. Former opposites finding uneasy alliance. At the family shrine, Jae-Sung taught the twins about their heritage, the honorable traditions, and the complicated choices their grandfather made. "So we come from complicated people," Minjun observed. "We come from survivors who made hard choices. Some good, some bad. Your job is to make better ones." Ji-hyun now taught ethics at Columbia Law. She occasionally met Angela for coffee, discussing gray zones between justice and vengeance, two women who'd learned that righteousness has many faces. "I spent 5 years trying to protect them from truth," Angela reflected. "Turns out children can handle truth better than lies. They just needed someone to trust them with it." The Taekwondo tournament. Minjun won his match and bowed to his father with perfect respect. Tae-yang lost but laughed. "I'll win next time. That's what Dad says. You don't have to win every battle, just the important ones." This isn't redemption. Jae-Sung still operates in moral gray zones. But he's learned that being a father doesn't mean being perfect. It means being present, being honest, teaching his children to navigate complexity with integrity. The most important battles aren't fought with power. They're fought with the courage to be known completely and loved anyway. Thank you for staying with us through Jae-Sung's complicated journey. Stories like this don't offer easy answers. They ask us to think deeper about morality, family, and the choices we make when caught between impossible options. If this story made you question, feel, and reflect, then we've done our job. We hope you'll join us again to explore another story that challenges how we see right and wrong. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and remember, the best stories are the ones that leave us changed.